welcome to the Deerland Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Boley. We're here at Boley Farms this evening. I've got the one and the only Tyler Sellens. How are you, Tyler?
I'm doing well, Mike. Doing well. What episode are we on here?
You know, I don't know. We're going to get into that here in just a second.
All right.
So we're going to do a little bit of behind the scenes. I think in TV they call it tearing down the third wall or something like that, you know.
Right.
So here we are on this windy and blustery evening. And Tyler and I decided to get together and have a little chat. So we've got a couple podcasts in the bank, I guess we'd call it, that you may have heard by now. So when I come to trying to figure out what number is this going to be, it was hard to come up with because I don't know exactly in what order we're going to be releasing these things in. So I'm not trying to be all sneaky or clever or any of that stuff. I mean, hey, this is what it is. I mean, we record what we can when we can, and we try to have some sort of rhythm to it, some sort of strategy behind it. But you know, sometimes it just it is what it is. We just sit here and record something. That's like right now tonight. We don't know what we're going to talk about. We've been sitting here on my couch for an hour trying to figure out what we want to talk about, going down rabbit holes that have absolutely nothing to do with podcasting, just life in general and all sorts of things. That probably would have made a good podcast if we were like on the Dr. Phil show or something, but not necessarily the Deerland Podcast. So that's why I decided to skip the episode number this time. You know, we've got a lot of stuff that's going to be coming down the pike. Habitat management, food plots, turkey birds, a little bit of traveling for yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, all this stuff is coming up. Here recently, the weather has just been atrocious. We just had Shed Rally, which was an epic failure around here.
More like a monsoon.
Yeah, Saturday. I had Field View said I had about 1.5 inches of rain, but I was talking to some folks down in Warsaw, which is 12 miles from here, not even that, 10 miles from here, and they had upwards 3 inches of rain. And it come down hard and it come down fast. I think someone said we still have about 18 inches of frost in the ground.
Is there that much frost?
I just heard that yesterday, yeah. So the water has nowhere to go, so it's, you know, flooded, and, you know, the top 3 or 4 inches is just mucky, nasty mess.
That's why the river crest is going to be like 19 feet, 19
Well,
feet
over that, and I just heard today that they don't expect the final crest until mid-April, and it might get big. So even at 19-something, that's major flooding. That's starting to shut highways down and stuff like that. So I know some ESDA groups have already started talking a little bit about sandbag situations and stuff like that. So I don't know if we'll get to a 93 or an 08 type of level, but that river, she's going to be a big one. There's no way around it. A lot of snowpack up north yet, I think, that has to make its way down here. So
I've got a few riverfront properties if anybody's looking for some.
Yeah, they'll be clean, that's for sure. You know, and with those riverfront properties, they're so darn intriguing.
I looked at one yesterday, and as I'm looking through it with a guy, I'm kind of like, man, this would be kind of neat to have. And you know, I mean, they're the nature of the beast is the river, but I mean, you either love it or hate it. I think, you know, I mean, it is what it is, and I kind of like them. I mean, they are intriguing. I will say that much. Of just some multi-use enjoyment properties. Of it's not just deer hunting. You know, if you're a waterfowl guy or deer hunter or boater or fisherman or camping or, I mean,
even the potential for some turkeys. I mean, you know, I know a couple different properties that, you know, as long as the water is not there, I mean, or even if there's just some high pockets in it, I mean, those birds will get in there and roost. So I don't mind the river ground, but man, it's just it's always nice knowing that, you know what, this October 1st, I want to go to this property and this is what I want to do with it. And sometimes with river ground, you just can't guarantee that.
There's no guarantee, but you've grown up around the river, as have I, but, historically we'll call it 1st of July, typically, the river's normal.
Yeah.
I've seen years where there's no flooding.
Oh,
Or very, very, very minor flooding.
happens.
Other years there's major flooding, but I will say the good thing about a lot of river properties is timber production.
Oh, without a doubt. You talk about some fertile soils. I mean,
Just a lot of silver. It's not your walnuts and that sort of
Hardwood.
a thing. But I know I've talked to some forestry guys, and they're kind of like, I'd rather own a river property than I would a hardwood timber, because you're gonna get a harvest every 10 or so years based on what you're doing for management and stuff. But they're definitely some good pieces. So.
yeah, and overall, I mean, your highest risk of flood is obviously going to be late spring. I would say mid-April through late June. That's typically when most of your flooding is going to occur. I know we had one in 2007 that was late August. It got really big. Last year in October it got big, but overall the river's going to get big in mid-April to late June, and then it'll drop off, and that's the hope anyways. So anyways, I don't even know how we really got onto that. I mean,
Like we're talking about the river.
yeah, I mean,
all the
just
rain.
all the rain that's been coming. Once again, I mean, it's kind of like deja vu for us. A year ago, we were trying to do some habitat management here at my place. Been wanting to do some prescribed fire. We really think they could help me out around here in the long term. The weather never cooperated, and here we are so far this year in 2019, and still no cooperation from the weather. Getting close, but about the time it's going to be good to go, you're going to be headed south to hunt turkey birds. So
You told me earlier you're just going to light a match and throw it out there and go to the bar. And
there's days
see what
that
happens.
I just think, you know what, let her burn. Fire department can send me the bill when they're done, and we'll deal with it from there. But I mean, I'm really excited. That's the thing. I mean, a little nervous, apprehensive, but I think we got enough of a plan. We'll take enough precautions, do it when the conditions are right, that I really do think the benefits could be outstanding. And as I've said on the podcast before, there are some local, biologists and stuff that are not firm believers in controlled burning, but I really am. I haven't done it myself, but I've seen enough of it done and seen the benefits that it can bring along. I'm willing to try it. I just don't think it's going to have a negative impact at all. So to me, it can only improve things. But
I think it'll help on some multiflora control. I know you don't have a lot of that, Louis does, but
I got a little bit, but
even some of your younger honeysuckle, I think, will help. Control some of that stuff as well. But there's a time and a place for it. And I don't think it's a bad thing either. But
no, and I
we're
think
not
with
doing all of it. We're doing sections of it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to try to focus on a particular area. There's a kind of like my midsection, I guess, around that big ridge. The creek bottom, all the way around that section is what I would like to try to get done first. But we'll see. I mean, we're not going to rush the issue. If it doesn't work out this year, it doesn't work out. But it just takes, get a good week of 60s sun, a little bit of wind, and that stuff will dry out. At least dry out enough where you can get a fire going and sustain one. So, and I guess speaking along that is, we did have the shed rally, and I did make it out that weekend a little bit. Not a bunch. Didn't find anything. I didn't find much to speak of the entire shed season, to be honest with you. But I kind of had one goal in mind. And, these last couple of years, I've noticed target bucks that, each year a new one. The last 2 years, there's been a different deer. But seem to be bedding in a particular area based off of observations from the field, trail cameras, coming and going at a certain area, certain times of the day, going back in the mornings, coming out in the evenings. That really led me to believe that they've got to be bedded in there somewhere. At least there's a good bed that there's a decent buck, That old one-eyed 8 was there last year, and I was set up on him wrong, and he winded me one night, Halloween night actually, and just was gone. Had seen him a bunch all year, knew where he was coming from. I just boogered that up. Took a different approach this year. That's where the mule deer buck was coming and going from. Had him patterned from that location and was able to harvest him. So I'm curious to see if maybe another one will move in this fall. So what I decided to do when I was out there shed hunting is to focus a little bit more on that area. And I've been trying to learn a little bit more about locating buck bedding. Obviously it's easy to find deer beds, doe beds in particular. I mean, there's usually a group of them in all different ways, shapes, and sizes. But the buck beds can be a touch harder. The hunting public guys have been doing a great job of finding, locating, and then targeting those bedding areas on some of their videos. And I just watched one the other day. They were down in Missouri doing like a seminar on a farm, and it made it all make sense. That they're going in there and they're seeing these beds, and then they're trying to figure out, all right, is it a buck bed or a doe bed? And usually, sometimes the size, they're a little bit bigger, but also, you find that bed, and you might find 2 or 3 in a vicinity, but that's probably the same deer using it on different wind directions. He's going to move a little bit depending on what the wind is. But they were saying also, you're going to see a lot of buck sign. You're going to see a lot of buck rubs. He's going to rub up his area. So you find a few beds and you look around, and you can stand in one spot, see 5, 6, 7, 8 different rubs, and then maybe you find one that was a year or two old, something along those lines. You're probably onto something right there. Well, I've had this one area that I worked on a little bit last year in February, kind of cleaning it up. Was going to hunt it, and then realized I was going to be too on top of the deer. But I think I'd even made an Instagram post about all of the rubs that I seen from this one spot. I mean, there had to be 6, 8, 9, 10, some monster rubs in there. And that's kind of the general area where these deer were coming and going. So when I went in there to shed hunting, I paid a little bit more attention, and I actually found, a couple beds in there with some rubs. So it's not far off the field, which is what's kind of odd. I mean, you're only talking 30, 40, 50, 60 yards off the field edge in there. But, there's a big drop off. So you got a couple different ways of getting out of Dodge. There's a decent trail system in there. I think with the wind, they can play the wind really well. They can have a good vantage point. It makes perfect sense to be buck bedding. And so I'm going to approach it this year the same way that I did last year. Keep an eye on the area with trail cameras. See if I can pattern a deer coming and going from that direction, and then maybe set up on him. I'm not going to get in tight. Some of these guys are getting in real tight on him and hoping to not booger him up. Of course, a lot of times they're hunting public land as well. With me being private, I want to do everything I can to encourage a mature deer to continue to bed on my farm on a regular basis. So that's the main place I was able to find buck bedding. I don't know where these deer are at in the winter. Finding some of the sheds from the mature deer has not been easy. Haven't heard of many in this whole section, I guess, being found.
I think they hide them. I really do. I think they would dig little holes or something.
Something. Because I have had such a hard time finding mature antlers that have shed.
Either that or the squirrels are just getting into it.
I guess, but I'm not buying that either. I mean, I went out somewhat early, I guess. And I guess it ain't like I was walking 20 or 30 miles, but, these areas where these deer have to be, or I believe them to be, I'm hitting the trails and trying to find some bedding areas and the food sources, and they're just not there. I mean, I think I found 5 or 6 antlers this year, nothing over 2.5 years old. Just a bad year. Of course, it was the best year I've had shed hunting on my farm. Also the first year that I had food, as well. So, and not that it's a huge deal. You always hope you can, find a shed off one that you're hoping to target, the following year, in the next couple of years. But it did give me a reason to get out and do some walking, and I'm kind of like an ADD guy out there. It's hard for me to focus on shed hunting. I start getting distracted by trails and rubs and old scrapes and stuff like that.
Oh, look, a bird.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, squirrel, But it does feel good to get out and do a little walking. I mean, I had some areas that I hadn't been in since turkey season, mushroom season. An area that I used to try to hunt that was hard, that I've kind of just stayed away from. It's a south-facing slope that I think they will use for some bedding. They're bedded not far off the field there. With the winds, I mean, they could come in any direction, and I tried hunting it unsuccessfully. So this year I just kind of stayed out of it, and I hadn't been through there at all. So it was kind of nice just kind of walk through and see anything had changed. Had a couple tree limbs that had fallen down and stuff like that. But so yeah, it's a good sign of spring. Now that the weather's finally breaking, I think it was up in the 50s this morning, and the bottom's falling out of it as the day goes on. But
I walked out this morning to take Spencer to school, and it was nice and warm. And then I had some office work there this morning I was doing. I think I went to the post office or something there about lunch, and I walked outside, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute here. We got to get some more clothes back on.
Things change,
It's
that's for sure.
It's that time of the year. It's March, so it's to be expected. And when I was pulling up here tonight, there was some turkeys across the road, and as I'm driving by, I look over, and I happen to see that old, recognizable white head, little long beard out there in the field. He was about half strut and just kind of acted like he was going to go into strut, but wasn't real sure what was going on. But
yeah, and I had ran into, you and I went to supper last Friday night, I guess it was, and ran into one of my neighbors, and he was telling me that he'd seen some turkeys out in the field and had a gobbler that was popping strut. Wasn't holding it real long, but, was kind of out and about popping strut. And I think when Kirby was back with the three of us, we were out together, and there was a bunch of turkeys out there, and probably 30 turkeys and 7 or 8 longbeards still kind of running together. So it's getting close, though, man.
Right now we're just right at 30 days from opening day of turkey season here in Illinois.
Yeah,
and Missouri. So it's I'm looking forward to it. Things are gonna change fast. They typically do. Though last year, I do remember first season. I had my long johns and my Carhartt coat.
Snowing,
I'm digging through trying to find warm clothes. It was not typical and stuff. So.
Well, I remember turkey camp at your dad's. It was freezing cold. Guys in Carhartts and just bundled up. It was brutal last year. And then again this year, we're not in danger of having an early green up. That's for sure.
I wouldn't think so. Things
it could always change.
Things
I
can
guess,
change
but,
fast.
I'm waiting on my my triticale and some of the stuff I interseeded in my standing beans into the summer last year to start greening up. Some of that clover start greening up a little bit. Because right now everything's dead. I was just looking at my yard, earlier today, and it's like, man, oh man, this is dead. There's just no sign of green anywhere. But normally, we'll get a week or so of 50, 60 degree days, it seems, in January, February, and we just haven't had it. It got cold and it stayed cold. It was winter. Winter was true to its name this year.
Mm-hmm.
But with the clover, the weather's changing fast. By the time this episode airs, the days or the possibility of frost seeding are going to be gone. I was looking at the forecast. I think we've got 3 to 4 more mornings left below freezing in the extended forecast. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to get out before work and go frost seed some clover. I've got some spots that I missed last year, and then some spots that just need a little bit extra, but I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of my Imperial Whitetail clover seed and just spread it all out. And I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I don't want to get too deep into food plot stuff because we'll use that on another episode. But every year, or at least every other year, I'm going to top seed my clover plots. And my reasoning behind that is to hope you can darn near keep them in perpetuity. If you can keep the clover established enough, keep a good stand of it to outcompete the weeds and the grasses. I fertilize every single year according to what soil tests call for. I probably won't soil test every year, probably do every other year as well, but I will fertilize every year. I don't see why a guy couldn't have, clover in the same spot for a long time. So that's going to be kind of my plan. This just, it kind of got away from me. I know you and Louie did some frost seeding week 10 days ago. I held off just for the fact that we had that monsoon coming, and I knew it, and I didn't want to take a chance of, putting out $50 or $60 worth of seed and then having it, wash down to the creek bottom. So I thought, well, I'll just wait a little extra. But then it seems like we're going to go from freezing cold to,
Warm.
true,
Yeah.
good solid late spring weather instead of,
We just don't have the. It's almost like we don't have the seasons quite like we used to of the gradual temperatures coming up. It's like it's cold, then it's hot, and it's back to cold, and then it's hot. I mean, there's a little bit of it, but
well, and it seems when you do, it's kind of more extremes. I mean, it's either super hot or super cold, or to have that month in the spring and that month in the fall. Woo, that is kind of like a perfect weather. I mean, you're just beautiful springtime and your beautiful fall. To get 4 weeks of that in a row or something, it just doesn't seem to happen. It's either blistering hot or freezing cold with some goofy weather, mixed into that. So I don't know. I'm no climate expert, but it's probably cyclical. I know that El Nino and La Nina have a lot to do with precipitation and stuff. We're definitely not hurting for precipitation. We'd been through a drought there for a few years. I have to believe that the soil moisture is at a very high level at this point. There should be no issues for a lack of soil moisture to do any planting. So I went by the other day, or just today actually, and seen some neighbors had some of the combines pulled out, some of their other, tractors and stuff out, and, kind of getting close to shuffling some equipment around and getting stuff ready. And
time to get the planter out and
yep.
Go through it, check it out, see what needs fixed or not fixed, or get things ready. That way, when it's planting time, you're ready to roll. So.
And I'm kind of about ready to do that with my stuff. My tractor, go through and just make sure everything's lubed up and got fresh grease in it, and take all the implements and make sure they're greased up and check all your fluids and just kind of get everything ready to go. Been kind of waiting on just a nice day, where you feel like getting out and doing that type of thing. And about time to get the mower out and make sure that it's ready to go for the year. And I usually try to make sure most of that stuff is somewhat ready to go at the end of the year. But sometimes I'll wait till spring just to go over it once more. And I'm just ready. I mean, it was a long winter. It didn't feel like a very productive winter. Even with me hunting, I mean, obviously, I shot my first buck November 3rd, shot my second one December 10th or 11th, December 10th, I think. So, even then my hunting was pretty well wrapped up after second gun season. So I had a whole lot of just doing nothing these last 3 months. Of the weather wasn't good to get out and, do any chainsaw work or anything like that. It was, foot of snow or 25 below zero, or so it just felt like, these last few months I've got nothing accomplished. And the warmer weather and the sunshine, we just had daylight savings time, so the days are going to be getting longer. That helps. You get off work, you feel like you can still actually get something accomplished of an evening. So the end is in sight. It's only, 6 months to go, 6.5 months till bow season opens again.
I haven't even looked at that. Just I guess I haven't counted. I guess I should say I know when it's coming. But
yeah, I mean, you get to April 1st, you're halfway home. So it'll happen in a hurry. And then with the way spring goes is, once you start hearing birds gobble, we're going to be chasing them through most of the 5 seasons. Between the tags that you have and that I have, and I think what Louie has, and then some of our hunting crew, I guess, would be, first season through 5th season in Illinois. I mean, there's not going to be many gaps in there where we're probably not going to be out trying to chase turkeys. So once turkey season starts, it seems like that can go by in a blink, where you don't get a whole lot of other stuff done. I know that, some people try to multitask and, hunt turkeys all day and then do other things and, repeat the process, but not me. Usually after about 3 days of getting up at 5 in the morning, and
it wears on you.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, it's that first day or two, you can get up, go hard, turkey hunt, go fish, look for mushrooms, sit around the campfire, roost birds, right back at it the next day. And by day 2 or day 3, you're
4, 5, 6. I mean, when I killed that bird last year, it was day 6, and I had spent the whole week before, roosting birds in the evening and waking up also to try to hear some on the roost. Those last few days leading up to the season. So, it was so nice to get that bird killed because I was just beat. I don't know. I mean, I watched guys like Dave Owens there on the Pinhoti project, and that dude just goes like an animal. I mean, driving forever, sleeping very little, hunting, working all day. This little boy ain't cut out for it. I mean, it wears on you. I start going delusional. But I'm still excited that it's coming. But my point was, once it hits, I mean, that's our focus and through the end of it. And then, you get into mid-May, and then, it's time to be putting beans in if you're doing bean plots, and get into June, you might have to do a little bit of maintenance to your clover, some of these other things. And, you're right into food plot season and, getting into the summer. And next thing you know, it's time to, put stands up or, scout new locations or cut some shooting lanes or whatever you want to do. And then velvet scouting and all of those things. The next thing you know, it's September and it's time to really start getting dialed in. And in the meantime, you're always hoping to shoot your bow a little bit.
You're giving me anxiety just talking about
it. Oh no,
right?
I mean it's just unbelievable. I mean, some people say well, I get depressed and the season ends, but we say a lot of times, I mean, the season doesn't end; it's a year round. And when you're doing some of these operations like we seem to find ourselves in, where you're doing food plots and land management and land improvement and hunting turkeys and deer and squirrels and stuff like that. I mean, it really is. You have some downtime where, there's not as much going on or the weather doesn't cooperate, but you're always not far away from something else that's going to have to get done. And I enjoy that part of it as much as, I may complain about it every now and again. I do enjoy it. I mean, it's part of the reason why I decided to jump into this like I have, just to always have something to do, something to work on. Using the land that you bought. That's something I repeat all the time is I want to find as many uses of this land that I can, get as much out of it as I can for myself, for the benefit of the wildlife and everything else. So I don't want people to think it's a poor me type thing. I got myself in it, but it is. When you stop and look at it, it's like, oh man, we got a lot of stuff going to be going on here. So talking about shooting bows, I bought a new release. I bought that Keaton release from Spot Hogg. I don't know. It's probably been a month ago now, and I haven't even shot it yet. The weather has just not been good.
Did you take it out of the package?
I did take it out of the package. Yeah. No, speaking of which, what I did is I bought a couple of these like toolboxes. They're DeWalt toolboxes, and on the bottom it's just kind of open, and then on the top it's got this like a separate box you can separate from it, and it's designed to hold like cordless drills, batteries, bits, and all that stuff. But what I'm using it for is, hunting, shooting, bow supply, stuff like that. I mean, you got ammo in one and all my cleaning stuff, and then, my extra broadheads and releases and just everything. Just instead of having stuff kind of scattered here and there, I've got these two boxes that I've got everything in. So I'll have one that's kind of like shooting, and then one that's like firearm shooting and cleaning and stuff, and another one that's kind of more hunting type related. So I can just go right to it, grab what I need, and go. But I've been wanting to shoot this release. I mean, I haven't even pulled the bow back with it yet. I'm hoping maybe this weekend. The weather's looking better. Tonight would have been decent, but the wind's blowing about 65 miles an hour, so I wouldn't have learned much. And, there's a lot of these guys that'll shoot in their house, just shoot like, 30 feet, 10 yards or something. And I'm a pretty good shot. I mean, I'm no Rod White or anything. I'm not going to be an Olympic archer anytime soon, but I'm pretty decent. I could just see throwing one and right through the wall, I mean.
Right in the middle of that 70-inch TV.
Yeah, that'd be a bad deal. I was reading a story on somebody that did that on a forum or something, and he just so happened to hit a water line when he missed on his and went through the wall and hit a water line.
When I was a kid growing up, Dad, we had a little room off to the side, had reloading stuff in there, and had a little like a BB trap.
Yeah.
Had a table set up, and I literally shot here to your TV. I mean, what,
10 feet, 12 feet.
Well, it's far. I mean, it was. Yeah, I don't. It wasn't that far, but I think I'd sat down there for hours just shooting BBs. Just pump BB gun up, sit down, shoot one, stand up, reload it, shoot, and I did that. I still remember doing that as a kid. It was fun, but I mean, there was nothing I could hit. I think Dad probably limited me to, a couple pumps. It wasn't like I could pump it 10 times and really bang one down.
Well, I bought Riker that Daisy for Christmas, and we haven't got to shoot it much. It's out in the garage. We took it out a couple times, but again, this winter's just been brutal, and he's only 3. He's going to be 4 here in a couple months. So I don't quite trust him yet to have him shooting in the house. I could just see him deciding to take one of these Ryan Kirby art pieces that I have on the wall and put one right behind the shoulder or something. So
it would make a nice target.
Yeah, and so we haven't moved it to the inside yet. But again, that's something else I'm waiting on the weather to break for, is to get him out and get him doing some shooting with the BB gun. And every night he's coming down and saying, "Hey, Dad, can we watch turkey hunting?" He's wanting to watch turkey hunting videos, and I've been letting him beat around on the old Lynch foolproof box call a little bit. We keep right here on the couch, and he's taken a love to it so far. So hopefully keep that passion going. I know he's got some cabin fever as well. He's wanting to get out and roam around and play in the dirt and stuff. So what else we got going on?
This might be a short podcast.
Yeah, I mean,
we were talking before we started, like, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Just see where it goes. But we're
and I don't want to sound redundant. And again, we might show this or play this in a couple weeks, or I'm not exactly sure when this one's gonna post. But we've got a lot of different plans to talk about different things. We've got some stuff already recorded that you may or may not have heard by now. So I don't want to sound like we're just saying the same things every episode. But, right now, this time of year, this particular moment, the things at the top of our mind are habitat, whether it be I wanted to do some honeysuckle control, try some of that. I didn't. I'm still trying to find some guy with a Fecon head on a skid steer maybe to take care of some stuff.
Are you?
Yeah.
Really? I know a guy with the skid steer.
I know a guy with the skid steer.
I don't think he's got one of those Fecon heads yet.
So, that hasn't got done yet, but that's still on my mind. Food plots, I got a hold of my guy at the co-op and told him to work up some fertilizer mixtures for me for the clover and the beans, and that'll be coming. And then, like I said earlier, frost seeding, turkey hunting. About time to throw a target out there and make sure that the old turkey gun's still shooting true. Make sure that turkey vest is packed and ready to go. I actually got it pulled out. I think it's ready to go. I lost a striker. I don't know where that went. I could have lost it hunting last year, and I just forgot that I lost it.
What's a striker?
Yeah, that little wooden thing that you hit on the little round thing and it makes noises.
Gotcha,
yeah.
You ever done a mouth call?
I did. I've got a few. I bought some. I think maybe you turned me on to some a couple years ago. Told me this guy, go buy this variety pack or something, try it. And I did. And I can make noise. And so, I bet I've watched 1,000 videos and read up a bunch of articles about using diaphragm calls. And they say, if you can make a noise, you can do it. That's the number one thing. Well, I've never had a problem making a noise. But making a turkey noise has been a little more difficult than what one would like. And, and I know that I can go out there. I've got a push-pull pin call that I take with me that I've had great luck with. I've got this Lynch box call. I can do a little bit on a slate call. Not a ton, but I can do enough. Between all of the calls, I can pretty much cover all of the range, the vocal range that I think I need to be somewhat successful in hunting turkeys. However, I have told myself that I can't consider myself a real turkey hunter until I can figure out a way to make realistic sounds with a diaphragm call.
What I heard the other day reminded me of Boy, I don't even know what it reminded me
Well, I'm
of.
telling you,
Like a sick duck or something. I mean,
I can do some amazing crow calling with a diaphragm turkey call. I mean, and I guess that's my heritage is, used to be a diehard crow hunter. So everything, maybe my mind just reverts back to that cadence and whatnot. But I bought another call. It was a Primos dome or something like that. It's got like a built-in dome on top of the diaphragm that is supposed to help you get it positioned in the correct spot. It's a triple reed back cut. They make a double reed that they say is a little bit easier. It takes a little bit less air pressure to get through it. So I'm getting there. I just haven't found that sweet spot where I get it in there and I start going and it's like the aha moment. Like, all right, that's it. That's what I need to try to reproduce. I had a couple times where it gets close or, where, man, that's getting there. And I don't know if it's just it needs more just repetition. Just sit there and just keep messing with it.
some of it's finding a call that you like too. That's what I've noticed. I get a few calls and throw in and make them sound great, and then you throw one, it's kind of like, and some of that's just the reeds too. So
Well, and I think at first, my main objective is just to get something that can reproduce the sound of the Eastern turkey. And once I can get there, I'm not going to get all fancy and stuff like that, but I think even with these basic calls, if you could just get, a basic yelp, cluck. I was purring a little bit, and that's probably, of these other calls that I have, of the slate call, the box call, and this push-pull call, the purrs on those are the hardest, I would think, to continually reproduce, to watch your volume or whatnot. But I was able to do some decent purrs, what I thought were decent purrs anyways. But what I would really like to do with the diaphragm call is to be able to cut on a diaphragm call. I can do it all right on the box call, but it gets a little slamming, a little popping too much. My yelps are fantastic on there. I can do a little bit of cutting. But even I guess to do some clucking, when they're getting in close, when you can't use your hands, it'd be nice to be able to have the ability to pop a couple, clucks off. So I don't know. I'm not in a big hurry. I killed a turkey on my own last year. Might have been a fluke. I don't know. I guess we'll see how often I'm out by myself this year. See if I can reproduce any of the results that I encountered. And even the year before I was by myself, I had 3 opportunities. I missed all 3 times. They weren't the best opportunities, but I was getting close. So I feel that I can still be successful without the diaphragm call. And you don't have to run a diaphragm call to be a turkey hunter. Don't get me wrong there. The problem that I have is I just happen to associate myself with like diehard turkey hunters that are really good at what they do, and that includes calling on a mouth call or a diaphragm. And I feel like, I need to at least be able to produce something. I'm never gonna get to like Grand National champion calling.
I was going to ask if that was aspirations of.
Not at all. I don't ever set out to like be the absolute best at anything. I'm just fine with being a jack of all trade, master of none, being proficient, work hard, be proficient at what I do. I don't have to be better than everybody else at what I do. So we'll take the same thing with the diaphragm call. And, maybe it gets to the point where this is probably the 3rd or 4th spring that I've piddled around with it. The problem is I always wait till about March before I start messing with it.
I'm headed to Florida on next Wednesday, and that's typically about the day I pop a mouth call in to see if I remember how to do it.
Well, you got plenty of time on the road, I guess, to mess with it. Of course, I guess if you got a truckload of people, they probably don't want you blasting away on
just 2 of us
on a mouth call.
Make 3 or 4 little calls and call it good.
Be ready to go. So
no, I'm kidding.
So again, that's kind of the turkey tangent for today. And again, I'll apologize. This podcast is just kind of all over the place. We're not really focusing on one individual thing. We just wanted to, get something recorded and get something out there.
Hope everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I hope everyone else is getting as excited about the springtime as we are with turkey hunting and food plots and mushroom hunting. Don't want to forget that. I love some good old mushrooms. So got some plans to maybe cook up some turkey here coming up, and maybe that's something we need to throw onto some of these episodes too, with some recipe ideas or something along those lines as well. So we'll be in touch here throughout this spring. Like I said, we've got several topics and show ideas lined up, through beginning of summer, essentially, between food plots and land management and turkey hunting and all that good stuff. So stick with us, and again, we hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, share us, tell everybody about this fine podcast that we're trying to produce for you. It's slow goings for now as far as getting the word out, but I do believe that eventually we'll have a body of work out here that people will enjoy listening to, and we'll look forward to hearing from us on a regular basis. So we're going to keep trying to give you that content as best we can. So until then, we'll see you next time.